Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and I am so excited to be celebrating 10 years of meaningful conversations with you. As we step into our new primetime hour, it's such an honor to share this exciting new chapter with you. So whether you're starting your day out, headed to work, or listening from wherever you are, this hour is designed to bring you thoughtful dialogue, fresh insight, and inspiring stories so you can make every moment count. So thank you for being here with me today, and let's dive in. We're here today with special guest, Ulli Allmendinger, who's here to share with us her new book, The Power of Ayurveda, Science-Backed Wisdom for Wellness, Vitality, and Longevity. So what if one of the world's oldest healing systems holds some of the most powerful answers to living longer, healthier, and more energetic lives? Well, today's guest is here to share with us just that. Ulli Allmendinger is the founder of Ulli Ayurveda, where she combined her experience in Ayurvedic medicine with a passion for nutrition, holistic healing, and longevity practices. With over 15 years of experience in Ayurvedic coaching, teaching, and as an author, she is dedicated to guiding clients and students towards greater health, vitality, and resilience. So welcome to the show, Ulli Allmendinger.
Thank you, Marian. Thanks so much for having me. My pleasure.
Oh my goodness, what a great honor it is to have you here and to talk about this book. What first inspired your journey into Ayurveda, and how did it change the course of your life today?
Yeah, well, actually, I was a journalist by training in my former life, as I can say. And I was living in New York, and it was around 2000. I thought I was doing so many things right. I was vegan, I was partially, a raw foodist, and I had so many ideas in my head what it meant to be healthy, but I never actually listened to my body. So I ended up getting a little bit sick and imbalanced. And in that journey, found Ayurveda and found a system that taught me how to listen to the body and not to eat or live my life according to an idea of what I think health is.
Oh my gosh, I think you touched on such a big piece for us today, because every time we look at social media or pay attention to different things that are out there, we're hearing about this new pill or this new way of approaching things that's going to cure everything. So, how do we approach our health and well being when there's just so much noise out there?
Yeah, so the way Ayurveda approaches this is through this idea that we are all different, right? Ayurveda calls this your dosha or your constitution. There are three different doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, and we all have various amounts of these doshas in our body-mind makeup. And so that means what may work really well for you may not work for me at all. And it also means that what may work for me today may not work for me in 20 years, because our body is always changing and evolving. So we would look at with discernment at wellness trends. We would not so much think about, oh, now everybody's taking ashwagandha, I need to take ashwagandha. But we would first see, what is it that my system is needing right now? And is this helpful for me or not? So in that sense, actually, all these, Ayurveda is not alone in this. All these Eastern traditional systems of medicine offer us a beautiful framework with which we can, with more discernment, look at all these wellness trends that are, like you rightfully said, constantly thrown at us.
So, for folks that are new to Ayurveda, can you explain what it is and how it's relevant today?
Yeah, so Ayurveda is actually one of the oldest healing systems in the world. It's about 5,000 years old, and it originated in the Vedic culture of India. And it's a system of medicine that tells us how to live in balance within our own mind, body, spirit complex, but also how we live in balance with the world around us. So balance, I think, is a really key word here.
Why would you describe ancient wisdom as the new cutting edge?
Yeah, so I had a lot of fun writing this in my book because we always think, now everybody is into dry brushing and oil pulling, and turmeric is the new big thing. And actually, all of these things were talked about in the Ayurvedic text thousands of years ago. So some of the things we're discovering now are not necessarily new. We're just the Western scientific world is discovering explanations for that. You can take the circadian rhythm as an example as well. Ayurveda said 5,000 years ago that every cell in your body has its own clock and is tuned into the environment. So Ayurveda taught us how to live in sync with nature so long ago, but now we have the science to support that.
Well, it's so interesting when science does catch up with ancient knowledge. I always love that. So, oh my goodness. So, what do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about Ayurveda?
I mean, in my over 20 years of practice, I would say there's a few things that people have in mind. The first thing is people think Ayurveda is very strict. It's a set of rules and it's a very strict eating system, and it's super complicated. So that's the first one. And when I was based in Turkey the last 15 years. And when I initially started working there, a common misconception was that Ayurveda was just Indian food, that you had to eat dal and rice every single day. And it cannot be further from the truth, because Ayurveda is actually very simple. There's a few very simple principles. It's the bottom line in Ayurveda is, how can we live more in sync with nature so that we don't have to swim upstream? And that doesn't mean that when you're in Turkey, you need to eat Indian food. It just means you eat locally and seasonally and according to your body type or according to your metabolism or your Agni, what we call Agni in Ayurveda. So it's not rocket science, it's not complicated, and it's certainly not a rigid system. We would not want to be have rigidity in a way of living, because that's not sustainable.
So, to kind of dovetail with that, then, how would Ayurveda define health differently than modern medicine?
So, in the classical text, this is so beautifully described. I mean, in modern medicine, when you're not sick, you're healthy, right? So it's the absence of disease. Whereas in Ayurveda, actually, health is an active state. In the classical text, it says, in order to be healthy, your digestion needs to be working well. Your tissues need to be well nourished. Your elimination needs to be good. Your senses and your mind needs to be calm. And this is super interesting. You need to be what Charaka described as vasta. Vasta is a Sanskrit word, which all of these texts were written in Sanskrit. And svasta means to be situated within yourself. So according to this definition, you are not healthy, even if you have the best digestion in the world, the greatest metabolism, and you're blissed out and very calm. If you're not situated within yourself, meaning if you do not know who you are, if you do not know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what serves you, what doesn't serve you, what your boundaries are, then you're not healthy. So you see, the definition of Ayurveda is a very vast one, and it's a dynamic one.
Why do you believe so many people today feel so exhausted, stressed, or maybe even out of balance despite trying to live healthy and just be healthy and have a healthy lifestyle?
Well, I think this is multifactorial, but I do think one key is that we are so bombarded, we are so overloaded, meaning we have too much to do. We are too busy. We are juggling so many things. We're multitasking. We're constantly online. We sit in artificial light. We go to bed at times when our natural circadian rhythm is wired to shut down and to rejuvenate. So modern life, as much as it has advanced in so many ways, our civilization has also really, I feel, removed us from nature and made our lives really complicated and made our nervous systems actually always in a slight hyper state. And what we actually need is not more. So what people are doing is they're looking for the next health hack or the next big supplement. But actually what we need is we need to go back to basics. We need to ask, how well are we sleeping? How well are we eating? How good and meaningful and supportive are our relationships? How is our community? How much sunlight are we getting? How much movement are we getting? These are all basic things, but we overcomplicate things because I guess we are fed certain things also by a wellness industry. I always love Dan Buettner's work on the blue zones because, you know, maybe your listeners are familiar with the blue zones in this world, these places or these hubs where people, the most centenarians, people over 100 years old live. And, you know, these people are not gobbling down ashwagandha or hitting the gym 6 days a week or eating only celery sticks and, you know, hummus. But what they all have, they live simple lives, right? They sleep well, they have community, they have a purpose, they grow their food, they enjoy life, they are relaxed. So um I think Ayurveda can help us to go back to basics and to remind ourselves that the most important thing is to keep things simple and to align ourselves with everything that surrounds us.
It really keeps things more in balance. And I love the blue zones, the study that's been done behind them, and also just showing what we could eat and still be, um, live healthy lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's in Ayurveda. Many people think in Ayurveda we're so obsessed with um, what to eat, but actually in Ayurveda, one very deep concept of health is the state of our Agni. Agni is another Sanskrit word which means your digestive fire. So it's not so much what you eat, but how you digest. You are not what you eat, you are what you digest. So we pay a lot of attention to how well what you're taking in. And that's not only food, that's also experiences and emotions. How well is that assimilated? How well is that absorbed and transformed in your system? So if you wanted to again use modern science, a lot of the studies on the microbiome would actually fall under what we talk about in Ayurveda as Agni. And we now know that your microbiome or your ability to metabolize and absorb things is so important, not only for your digestion, but for many systems in your body, for your brain, for your immune health, for your hormonal health. So I'm super excited actually that we live at this time that we live in, because we have now so beautifully this coming together of the East and the West actually.
Can you share with us the three doshas and why understanding them can help us make better everyday decisions?
Yeah, these three doshas we refer to as these beautiful three bioenergies that regulate all physiological processes in the body. So there's vata, which is the principle of movement. There's pitta, which is the principle of transformation. And then there's kapha, which is the principle of structure and stability. So vata regulates anything in your body that's related to movement. So the beating of your heart, the breathing of your lungs, cellular communication, the movement of food through your intestines. Pitta is transformation. It's metabolic activity in the body. It's your digestion, temperature regulation. It's understanding, intelligence. And then kapha is structure and stability. It's regeneration. It's your lymphatic system. It's your body tissues. So these three doshas make sure that everything in our body is working in harmony, and we need all these three doshas. But of course, they can be imbalanced through our diet, through our lifestyle, and when they are imbalanced, they can cause disease. So if you know what your unique mind body type is, meaning what the ratio, whether you're a vata predominant type or a pitta predominant type, then you have a much better understanding what foods or what activities or even what jobs may be beneficial for you and what things may not be so beneficial. So I can give you an example. If you're a pitta person with a lot of fire, if you eat a lot of acidic foods or a lot of spices or a lot of fried foods, all of which can increase inflammation in the body, these things imbalance you. You are overheating, you're generating too much inflammation. Whereas if you know that this is your constitution, you can make choices that are anti-inflammatory or that are more cooling. So you would maybe eat more leafy greens or more avocados and cucumbers that are cooling to the body. Similarly, if you're a vata constitution, which is air, it's an airy type, and your job is being a flight hostess and you're constantly jetting through the world, which is highly vata aggravating, especially if you're like, thousands of meters above the ground. You know that you need certain measurements to help ground, oleate, lubricate, and moisten and warm you. So, with this framework of this bio individuality, we can actually make choices that are personalized. And we see this trend now in Western medicine as well. So, functional medicine, as you are well aware, that has been hugely developing over the last 10, 15 years, is exactly coming from this point that we cannot have this cookie cutter approach to everybody, but we're all different, and the choices we make uh, can either help balance us or can further imbalance.
I love how your book talks about flow and transformation and regeneration. So, how are these three principles so important today for longevity?
Yeah, so flow, transformation, and regeneration are actually the biological essences of the dosha, right? So if vata dosha is in balance, then things are moving the right way. If transformation, if pitta dosha or your metabolic power is well and working efficiently, then you're able to digest food. You're able to transform that food into building healthy tissue or making energy and vitality. And the last one, regeneration, is related to kapha dosha. It's this idea that if we give our body the chance to regenerate and rebuild, so if we're able to recuperate from stressors, and a lot of that is happening at night when we sleep, then our body has this ability to have strong, what we call ojas, or this reserve. I always call this our savings account. So these three principles, flow, transformation, and regeneration, when we can optimize them through food, daily routines, through movement, through breath work, chances are that we are dialed into longevity because we are not swimming upstream. Our body doesn't have to work so hard. We're supporting our body. We're working with biology instead of against it.
So, what are some simple daily habits that people can begin today that would give them the greatest impact on their health?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. And I love that because, like we talked about already, Ayurveda doesn't have to be super complicated. So I would say simple things: go to bed early, ideally before 10 o'clock, because from 10 in the evening until 2 in the morning, it's the time of the liver in Chinese medicine and Ayurveda. So a lot of the body's rejuvenation and regeneration and detoxification processes are underway at that time, and then get up before the sun rises. There's a beautiful saying I recently heard in India, and it's so simple, but it's so beautiful. And it goes like this: when the sun is up, don't sleep. When the sun is down, don't eat. So this comes to the second point that I want to make. Uh, Eat at regular times because your Agni is also dialed in. So don't have breakfast one day at 7, the next day at 11, the third day you skip it. So eat at regular times and make lunch your biggest meal, because your metabolic activity, your insulin sensitivity is the highest at noon, which is when the sun is at the highest point, and the sun is just the external form of Agni. So I would say those are some very simple tips. Maybe the last one is a hack that I give people all the time, and especially for American audiences, this will be a life changer. Instead of drinking cold water, sip on hot water, because hot water is an amazing cleansing agent. It increases your digestive and your metabolic capacity. It cleanses the channels. It moves the lymphatic system. So if you just start sipping in between your meals on hot water, you will notice how much better that feels than iced water or very cold water.
Such great advice. My goodness. I love how your book, and you mentioned this earlier, I kind of want to dovetail with this. You talk about resilience as a essential part of health. So, how can people strengthen both their physical and mental resilience?
Yeah, I talk about this in the book. In Ayurveda, actually, resilience is related to two factors, and physical resilience very much in Ayurveda is related to rasa dhatu. Rasa dhatu is very closely linked to our lymphatic system. So the better your lymphatic system is working, because the lymph and the blood plasma in Ayurveda, we are so keen. It's the first tissue that is formed in the body from the food that we eat. And that is not only the tissue that carries a lot of nutrients to every organ and every cell, it's also the tissue that removes waste from the body. So the better, think about it like that, the better your garbage removal system works, the cleaner the streets are. The better the chances that there's no big traffic jam or no things piling up. So that's the physical resilience part. Of course, there are other factors that play into that. Now, mental resilience is a little bit more linked to what we call ojas, your savings account, your energy reserves, and of course your nervous system. And I recently also was speaking to a colleague of mine in India, and he said something very interesting about stress. He said stress is not so much related when we just have too much on our plate. Stress is when demand outweighs skill. So I found that super interesting. And I think about this a lot. So when we feel overwhelmed, when we feel we don't have the skills to tackle what's at hand, we need to ask for support. We need to delegate. We don't need to carry everything. So it's not so much about how busy we are. It's also about how much are we able to handle what life throws at us. And for that, a strong nervous system that is grounded and rooted. And there are many techniques, as you know, in yoga, in breathwork practices. So anything that you can do to keep your mind settled within yourself, to keep your mind strong and calm, to be tuning into this vastness of the ocean instead of riding every single wave that's in the ocean. That's strengthening our resilience.
Well, Uli, I thought your book was just an inspiring read, The Power of Ayurveda. Where can our listeners go to connect with you and be part of your community?
Yes, so they can follow me on Instagram. I'm at Ulli Ayurveda, and they can visit also my website. It's www.ulli-ayurveda.com. And I would love to hear from your listeners. My pleasure.
Well, Uli, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you so much, Marianne. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary. A recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.